welcome everyone. This is the Arsenal Women Chat Show. Guess what we talk about? Arsenal women. However, at this time of year, there's not a great deal to talk about. So what I've got is an irregular series of conversations, but with some regular people, I might add. So you've got obviously me, Andrew Gambrell, and my almost frequent sidekick now, Chantal. Hi, Chantal. How you doing?
I love to be called a sidekick. Honestly, I feel like you and me are going to be the dynamic duo.
I'll be Batman. You can be Robin. Just so we know. Or other superheroes are available. But the star of the show, and last but not least, we've got Adam Salter.
Well, star is that's that's a compliment, and we barely even started, so it's a it's a good start. Yes, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to sort of discussing my sort of say journey, if you will, if it's an appropriate term. It's been quite a heck of a journey actually. So looking forward to picking apart, and hopefully some of the people watching at home can maybe resonate with some of the things maybe I've found along the way.
Days. This is Guna Stories, or this infrequent series. But we'll start off with the kind of the obvious question. And whilst we're talking about obvious, it's obvious that he's an Arsenal fan, and obvious that why wouldn't you be an Arsenal fan? But why are you an Arsenal fan?
Yeah. It's a very interesting question. There was no football in my family. There was no. I grew up without Sky Sports. You know, the horror. I know. Rishi Sunak can obviously sympathise, and yeah, there was. I grew up in a non-football household. I wasn't born near Highbury, London. I grew up in Kent. Moved to the West Country, and for most of my life, I hated football. I'd no interest in football. I used to do football after school. I was rubbish at it because no one passed the ball to me. I tell you what, it's very difficult to play football when you're standing on a freezing cold sports pitch, just standing there while the ball is being passed by everybody else, and you're just and what's the point? But something resonated with me football-wise when I went and decided, you know what, I can't run around. I'll just stand in goal. And suddenly I found that I was getting a bit more involved with the game and found my love for football through then. And I knew then I needed a team to support. And it's quite simply that my best friend at school supported Arsenal. It's literally as simple as that. And I didn't know any of the teams. I heard that they were quite good at the time, and bearing in mind this was around 2003, 2004 when I heard that they were quite good. But I never watched any of the games because I still wasn't fully in tune with the sport. And sadly, I lost contact. He was my best friend at school, but sadly, I lost contact with him over the years. As these things do, we all go our separate ways. But my love for Arsenal has carried on without them. And I've been an Arsenal fan, and I think it's probably my stubbornness and my misguided sense of loyalty that I still am an Arsenal fan, because it would be very easy just to cash the chips in and go, you know what, there's a nice sky blue shirt in the Sports Direct, I might put that on and, you know, get some easy trophy wins that way. But no, I've put my chips on Arsenal, and I will bank on that until they come back with the treble, or the quadruple, or however it turns out.
Yeah.
Another Conti Cup. Well, trophy's a trophy. You know, there are certain clubs that don't win trophies, so we should be grateful.
Barely win games, let alone trophies. But okay, good. That's good.
Indeed.
I will thank your friend for getting you into being an Arsenal fan.
It changed my life. It changed my life. I would not. I mean, it's quite simply, I would not be doing what I'm doing now if. And this at a very young age, we're talking sort of like 9, 10 years old. I mean, at such tiny acorns, big trees grow. And that was definitely one of the big sort of defining points of my life at such a young age.
So you've got like why Arsenal then? So then, like, what was your first game in general like to go to?
This is brilliant. I say this anecdote and it makes me laugh every single time. My first football game that I went to in person, watching in the crowd, was a Spurs game. I know, it's brilliant. It's utterly brilliant. Horror. It was a Spurs home game, and it didn't even involve Arsenal. I know, it's fantastic. So I know, but
yes.
Again, this was around the same time I was starting to get into football, but didn't know about all the rivalries and anything like that. The only two teams that people supported at school were Manchester United and Arsenal, because they were the only two teams that won anything. But my PE teacher, my football coach at school was a Spurs fan, unfortunately, and he treated us as an end of year school trip. Took us, hadn't we suffered enough? But he took us to White Hart Lane to watch a Spurs game, and it got us ticket. I don't know how much it cost. I mean, considering what the prices are like for tickets nowadays and the demand, you'd never do it nowadays. But it was amazing for me. It was a trip up to London, which is always nice. Got to go in a football stadium I'd never been in before, watch a game, and Spurs sadly won. But there was a big twist on this one. So the game, and any football stat aficionados listening to the game will start to put the pieces together. This was a home game against Blackburn Rovers at the tail end of the 2004 season, where Spurs won 1-0. Jermaine Defoe scored the only goal. But who can tell me what happened in the previous home game?
I mean, that's going back to when I was a proper little kid. So.
Oh, thanks, Chantel. Oh gosh!
If I was saying this happened in 2004, it's the tail end of the 2004 season, and what happened in Spurs' previous home game?
Yeah.
If you think about,
and we weren't
if I
playing
say it might be Arsenal related, yeah.
Oh
no,
I was just about to say that's what I meant. Yeah, we were in that game, so was it?
Yeah. And I got my match day program, because I always get a match day program whenever I go to a game, has pictures of Arsenal players from that 2-2 draw in there. And curiously, the program makes no mention of the fact that Arsenal won the title, which is very funny. So I came away with a book with some Arsenal stuff in and didn't really understand what was happening. It's only in retrospect I was like, oh, it was that game. So unfortunately, I missed the game by about 2 weeks. But I don't think the school bursars would have justified a trip for a North London derby. I don't think it would have gone down well. But yeah, that was my first game. My first Arsenal game, if we've been a bit more fairer, was a 6-0 win against Ludogorets in the Champions League at the Emirates Stadium. That's the first time I actually went up to the Emirates and watched Arsenal play, and that was incredible. Mesut Ozil got a hat-trick. But it's also Santi Cazorla's last game for Arsenal. So as one legend departs, that was my first. That was my first Arsenal men's game. And then
I'd forgotten
years later, obviously,
Ozil played in the
women's
same
game.
team. So was that how many? They must have only played a handful of games together. Yeah. 20. I mean, I know we're veering into men's football now, but it was So obviously, Ozil came in 2014. So you would have 13, 14, 14, 15, and 15, 16, and 16, 17. But remember, for the last two seasons, Cazorla was injured for most of it. So by the end of it, they barely played each other. But his last game was obviously passing a ball to Ozil to score, and that was his last moment in the shirt. So but I didn't get to go to many Arsenal men's games because there wasn't much fun going to them. And also that. But you quite rightly chastised me for straying into the men's game. So let's go. What was your first Arsenal women's game?
So I've actually been a fan of the women's game for quite a long time. My first watching on TV Arsenal women's game was the 2007 FA Cup final when Arsenal beat Charlton Athletic 4-1. The great thing about women's football at that time was not only did Arsenal always win a trophy, well, nearly always, the FA Cup final was the only televised game. It was a bit like old school, like how football used to be in the 80s and 70s and so on. The big televised game was the FA Cup at the end of the season. So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up without any much live football and no Sky Sports, etc. So the opportunity to watch Arsenal on a live game, especially as the men's team were not even making, finals and trophies and so forth. So it was nice that regularly every summer you'd see Arsenal, the women's team, come out and play wearing the Arsenal shirt, sporting the badge. And women's game was not that extensive at the time, so most of my focus was watching the Lionesses, and watching the Lionesses through the likes of the 2011 World Cup, the 2013 Euros, and every 2 years, seeing how they do. And it was only after the World Cup 2019 when I thought I need to go and actually go and watch them play. And it helped that Arsenal had just won the league. They just won the WSL in 2019. One of their best ever seasons. They won all but 2 games. Brilliant attacking football. The likes of Daniela van der Donk, Vivianne Miedema, Jordan Nobbs, Beth Mead, Leah Williamson and Sarah van Veenendaal, the players who then went on to the World Cup and did rather well. So I thought I need to go and start supporting the team. So in 2019, they had the Emirates Cup, which we all know is that lovely friendly tournament they have. They were doing a special where they were doing a double header, where they put a women's game on against Bayern Munich and then put the men's team on against Olympique Lyonnais. So I thought I'd go along. And the great thing is if you went along, you could have your picture taken with a WSL trophy and 4 Arsenal players. Arsenal win players. So I got myself pictured with WSL trophy with Beth Mead, Daniela van der Donk, Leah Velti, and new signing Joe Lord. And I didn't know who any of those players was, and it was really embarrassing. And that's when I realised, I need to knuckle down and learn my sports. Like when I first started supporting the Arsenal men, I went into it not knowing who any of the players were, not knowing how you even pronounce most of the players' names. I didn't know who Dennis Bergkamp was. I didn't know who Henri was or Vieira, which is ludicrous to any Arsenal fan of thinking, they're legends. They meant nothing to me. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who Touré and Locke, and catch up on all my knowledge. The people I knew were likes of Kelly Smith and Faye White and Alex Scott, Anita Asante. They had all since retired by then and gone and do great things in the media or coaching.
Yeah.
So, but that was the point when I realized I need to devote more energy into the women's game. And my first trip to Meadow Park was in 2020. It was a game against Birmingham City. And Arsenal were top of the table then. I know, scary thought, but we were actually top of the table that season. And we won 2-0. And the peak moment was Leah Williamson chipped a long ball over the top from the halfway line. And Jordan Nobbs runs onto it. And we're watching, sat in the East Stand watching it. And with one touch, Nobbs sends a lob straight over the keeper and into the far corner. It's an incredible bit of technique. And it's up there on YouTube and it always gets shared around. And I knew I'd witnessed something very, very, very special, and it was sort of the kicker to maybe want to come back again and continue not just supporting the team as as an Arsenal fan, but actually contributing, going to the games and watching them. Unfortunately, that all fell apart because I don't know if you're aware, but there was this little thing that happened in the middle of 2020 called COVID, and it kind of I know but it meant I couldn't go to any more games and couldn't go to any more games for over a year. That kept me going through lockdown. The thought of getting back to Meadow Park.
There was quite a few games on the TV by then, wasn't there? Was it? Am I misremembering, or is that
Yes. So on the topic of TV coverage, and this is so obviously the WSL kicked off in 2011. BT Sports, as they were then known, used to cover the games, and as did the BBC occasionally on the red button as well. And it got better and better as the games as the seasons went on. But I never, I don't know, maybe bothered or really, and I feel much guilt of not having done so. I could have tapped in sooner, and I could have probably watched the games more sooner. I only really properly followed the games as the brand grew bigger and as it became clear Arsenal might actually win the title. So I watched some of the running games, so the 5-1 win away at Liverpool, the 2-1 win at home to Everton, catching when they can, when they're on the red button, or if we're on BT Sports. We didn't have the FA player. The FA player only came in after that season, at which point all games were on the cards, and you could there was no excuse. You could watch them all. At the time, maybe 1 or 2 games would have been open to TV. The rest of them you had to go along and watch yourself. All would have been live on Facebook. So shows how much coverage has changed. So yes, unless you knew of where to find the games, you wouldn't have been able to. But now it's a bit easier, I think, to access any Arsenal game now. So that's
it is another world, isn't it? You kind of you've kind of been sending me back there to kind of like how difficult it was, and like you said, at one point the women's coverage was the cup final. That was it. And I've forgotten about the Lionesses as well, but and now you can pretty much see every game. You don't have to go to it, but you can see certainly the majority of the Arsenal games. I think unless I think there's a few on subscription based, isn't there, Sky? But
well, yes, so Sky, it's obviously the Sky ones. They do sometimes do a Sky Showcase. But then there are obviously games that aren't even on the terrestrials or on the FA Player. I talk of Continental Cup Tires matches, Continental Tires Cup matches, Conti Cup matches. It's only recently that clubs have started live streaming those games, and there was caused a lot of consternation during lockdown when it turns out that there were games that no one could watch. There are a lot of memorable moments of everyone having to follow the Twitter feed of journalists at the games to keep track of how many goals we conceded to Chelsea. So in some sense, I'm glad that the clubs have wisened up a bit and realised that actually there is genuine demand for watching us play a Conti Cup game against Reading. People do want to watch it.
I want to go back because you were saying about how you didn't know the names of players. Do you think that kind of gave you that unbiasedness where you could watch the player and just see their talent instead of going, oh, that's Kelly Smith, that's Alex Scott, obviously they're going to be a good player. So it kind of gave you that freedom to fall in love with how they played rather than the name.
I think there was a lot of truth in that. I think it's great to go in with these things for a clean slate. I think that's one of the things I actually loved about women's football is that I was coming in with a clean slate with no preconceptions and no knowledge. I was much at ground zero. The best way I can think about it, I do a lot of video gaming, and a lot of the games I've played many times before. I know them like the back of my hand. I can find my way around it. But when you get something fresh that you've never played before, and suddenly you're on the back foot, and there's a joy to that of like solving a puzzle for the first time. And in the case of the women's team, it was I'm learning a new football team again. It's a football team I love because they are the Arsenal, but I'm able to learn the players, appreciate who they are, appreciate their talents, and maybe what we'll get to in terms of what I'm doing now. One of the joys I've had is not just watching the players and making my own opinions of them and learning who they are and their people, but who they used to be, and going backwards and seeing how some of these players became legends at Arsenal. How Jordan Nobbs and Kim Little, how they were years ago. Leah Williamson, she started. I think she's only like 17 years old. She started in a Champions League game against Birmingham back in 2014, and she's been with us ever since. It's learning. It's also learning the past stories as well, because I knew I didn't have knowledge of these players, knowledge I should have, and going back and learning them and researching them has been another joy in itself. And then learning about who Vivianne Miedema was. I didn't know who Miedema was until I watched the 2019 season and realized, oh, she does score quite a lot of goals. She was quite a good striker for us back in the day, until sadly the injuries and the ACLs kicked in, and sadly she's at Manchester City now. So yes, what I have noticed is on social media is people are very opinionated on players. They have their favourites, and they will let you know. And woe betide if you tell anybody otherwise what you think of a certain player, they'll go, no, you're wrong, and here is 100 reasons why. So I've learnt. One of the things I did when I jumped into this world of women's football is try and get into the social media aspect. I did have a Twitter account, but I wasn't that active on it. Being at the games, I realised I want to immerse myself in this world more, because there's a fantastic energy to it and positivity and enthusiasm. But I also learned that there are certain things that, let's say, there are certain players you don't critique. There are certain players, there are certain bears you don't poke, as if you will. And it's a quick learning curve, and if you don't pick it up, you'll soon find you lose half your followers overnight. But that's you have to.
If it makes you feel better, I've done it already. I remember being at a game and I made an opinion. I love our girls, but if someone's not playing to the potentialness, then it's not working. I'll be brutally honest. And I said it, and this girl who stood next to me going, "You can't say that. She's a really good player." I went, "She may be a good player, but for this game at the moment, she's not being good." And I think it does get you in trouble.
You'll get there. No, it's not them. It's the manager, the team. They're not playing her in the right way. She should be playing in X position, but he's playing her in Y position. She was great for her country. She was great 2 games ago when she set up somebody else. Just stand by that player. I've seen it all before with every player, and I think there is an interesting part of women's football that there is almost, this is something I've observed, is I think at some point, because it's been a sport that has suffered from other people not giving it the respect it deserves. I think maybe at sometimes we're a little maybe defensive when it comes to criticism.
Yeah, 100%, and
and I think it's always very key that you're critiquing it. You're critiquing the player because of their ability, and maybe questioning that rather than criticizing a player because they are a woman. I think there is a clear difference, and I think those within the game I would hope do know that difference. And I think maybe that sometimes when I hear people say, "Oh, that player, she's not very good, is she?" That you've got to be very careful.
It's you know what, I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. If there's a justified criticism, there's still a kind of an instinctive. And like you say, whether it's because of the historical element of the kind of the way that the women's game was treated in the past, or whether it's just because it's Arsenal and I will kind of defend anyone who's got a cannon on their shirt. But so it's a tricky one, but I think that's a really good point you make about the nuance or lack of sometimes.
But the brilliant flip side of that is that everybody wants to be positive about the players and about the team, and you see that love in the stands with the chants in the stadium and online in the edits that people do. I think there is a greater love for players on the women's side, and I'm not saying that the men's side don't support their players, they do, but I think there is a greater, deeper love from the individual towards players or individual players or the team that you get on the women's side, and that's something I found really good and really enjoyable to watch and be a part of.
Definitely, it'll be interesting to see if that grows either way, and whether because the men's game it's pretty vile at times. To be fair, it's pretty vile. And
it can be.
The Arsenal Tottenham rivalry. Sometimes I would be really uncomfortable with some of the things that would be said. It's like, I hate Tottenham. I really don't like them, but to say that about that individual person, I don't know. That's still a bloke. Still got family. Still got Still got. But it'll be interesting to see if that develops. It's still very much in its infancy, isn't it? Particularly the fan culture, I think, which is the main thing. So obviously the game is way ahead, really, of the fan culture. The fan culture is still developing, and I wonder if there's a few flashpoints that we've got to go through and see how it goes. Whether we have, I don't know what those flashpoints could be. Whether it's Katie McCabe starting a proper brawl. Or a 2-footed tackle that gets.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's a good point you mentioned about Katie McCabe and brawls, because there was a one in the North London derby back at the Emirates Stadium.
Yes.
We won 3-0, and there was a tackle on Velty. She got flipped over the horizontal, and Katie McCabe was on the brink of going in, fist raise. I'll have you. You take down one of my players at your peril. And I'll be honest, in terms of tackles, there are some awful tackles out there in the women's game. And one of the things I've noticed is that very little get punished. They'll be given a booking or a telling off.
True.
The referees aren't as red card happy as on the men's side, and you do see a lot of tackles that go unpunished. Just to as a actually reference, because actually it's relevant to today. Actually, I put a post up on the archive channel that I help run. there was a game in 2015 and when Leah Williamson got absolutely wiped out by a player called Aisi, and she only got a yellow card for it, and it's an awful tackle. However, it was a second yellow, so she did get sent off. But it was, if that had been done in the men's game, it's a clear red and they're off, and it's suspension, and it's amazing just the that sort of physicality, and it comes a lot in the game that the women's players are more lower tackles, more physical, rougher, and women just shrug it off and carry on. And I think that's something that maybe the men's team could take a few lessons from. Certainly after watching the Euros.
Next question, Chantal. We've got him on the ropes now. He's
so growing up, what were your favourite players? I'll let you have 2 men and then you can have 2 females. It would be nice.
Fair.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so men's side, so obviously on the Arsenal, trying to think who. The problem is, all my favourite players became snakes and went to other teams. Okay, so one of my favourite players growing up, and it's one of the reasons is because he was deemed as a record signing at the time, and he had the number 23 on the back, and that was Andre Arshavin. And it was the first time growing up when a signing came in, and there was a genuine, for me, it's experience. Genuine excitement around the player. I'd never really experienced that of any other players. You have to imagine that the players we were signing at the time were players like Mikel Silvestre. So as a compare and contrast, and this player coming in, everyone's raving about it, and it was a last-minute deal. It was all very exciting. Would it happen? Would it not? And then he comes in, he seems exciting, and he scores 4 goals at Anfield. And you think, well, this is the player that's going to take us on. And it wasn't to be in the end for Arshavin, but I'll always have a bit of a soft spot for him, because he got me. He was another player that was got you on your feet. There's something, that you could do something ridiculous, usually against Liverpool, which is quite handy. But you have moments of magic in him that sadly wore off over time. And the other player, and it was more of a sympathy one, was Theo Walcott. He was another one of these players that I just wanted to be really, really good. I want, because of the whole nonsense of him going to the World Cup, but he wasn't used, but we signed him as a youngster, and I was thinking, I want this player to be like the not Messi, because Messi didn't exist then, but like this talismanic striker. And I remember the 2007-2008 season, right at the tail end, he was starting to get lots of goals, and he looked quick. He was quick, that sprint he did at Anfield to take out all the players, and then obviously we all know what happened after that. I just thought, this guy's going to be amazing. He wasn't in the end. He was just a very, very good player, and that was it. But he was another one I thought I really wanted to be that super player. And then as for the women's side, well, I sort of leaned on it. Kelly Smith scored 2 goals in that cup final, the first one I watched, and one of them was an amazing free kick. And you sort of learnt about the players from the commentary, about who saying, this player's the really good player, this player's a talismanic player. And Kelly Smith was one of them, and you watch her play, and she's mesmerizing. Oh, wow. And one of the joys again has been going back into the past and finding old clips, seeing her play for England during her prime. There's a really good game against Japan, if you ever find it, the 2007 World Cup. England 1-0 down. She basically goes in the ball and she goes, sod this, I'm going to turn the game around the head on my own. And we end up drawing it 2-2, but there's a 5-minute spell where she just goes into invincible mode, like in Mario Kart, gets the power up, and suddenly she's the best player on the pitch. Yeah. So a lot of love for Kelly Smith, and I'm really glad that she's obviously back in the fold, doing the coaching for our strikers. And then it's players like I'm trying to think were there any others that during that time growing up. The problem is, because of lack of coverage, you didn't see them as much. But I think a shout out is certainly, I think, one of the players that wowed me when I watched the players face to face, having seen them on TV. There's a difference between watching a game on TV and watching it in person. And going to Meadow Park, I always remember it, and I'd always heard about Kim Little. Seeing Kim Little play in person, that was like I get it. There's no player like Kim Little, and hasn't been, I think, for a while. Maybe there's someone coming through, but certainly in the team, you think, and that stood out for me as a young player. We're very lucky we managed to get her back, because she departed. I think went to America and Australia, and then thankfully we got her back.
I think everyone does, don't they, across the Arsenal fan base? I mean, you can't not like her, can you?
No, absolutely not. Just we're lucky to have her, and have her as our captain. And she is the epitome of professionalism. So yeah, we're very lucky, and she's been with us. Well, she's the history she has within those feet. You know, she was playing for Arsenal before the WSL even existed. She's been with us for that long, so she is the embodiment of Arsenal. True story. I think of no better player to lead us into battle every day.
If she's listening, you've got years before you retire, so don't think about making any announcements.
Well, we all have to say goodbye at some point, sadly, and you know, we cannot live in the delusion of infinity. You know, time does come around eventually. So for my opinion, Kim, is I'm going to enjoy every minute that she plays for our club until the very end, and treasure it and feel fortunate that I was around to watch her play for Arsenal.
Indeed. Adam, what is your favourite game that you've seen the Arsenal women play?
Wow. Okay.
That can be from what it meant to the team or what it meant to you. You know, kind of like no kind of caveats, no asterisks.
I mean, that's a really, really good question, because I've seen quite a few now. Are we talking just in person or on TV or anything like that?
All bets are off. You can answer that question.
Okay, I may have a few favourites.
Oh, hello.
But the most emotional game I can think of, just the intensity of the moment and the relief at the end of it, was one of my first games back after COVID.
Oh, wow.
Seeing them in person, it was the 3-2 against Chelsea at Emirates Stadium. And it was a really hot September afternoon, and Jonas has only just come to the club, and I'm a bit of a stats nerd. I knew that at home Arsenal hadn't beaten Chelsea since like 2013 in the league. You know, we lost to them home and away a few seasons ago. We lost back. We just had a really pants record. We haven't got a win against them in ages. And so every time, seeing Arsenal Chelsea opening game of the season, my heart just sort of sank. And the game, I stand by it, is one of the greatest ever games ever played at Emirates Stadium, men or women. It was just the way the game sort of ping pong. We were ahead, they got it back. We were ahead, we were hanging on, and just 20 minutes of just sort of clinging onto your seat for dear life and hoping they can just see the result out, and the emotion at the end of it. And it kind of, I mean, I'd already committed to being a season ticket holder by then, but it kind of sort of cemented sort of my faith that I mean, obviously we didn't win the league that season, but it cemented my faith that this team was special, and I absolutely love them and I want to keep going. I mean, ones I'm going to reel off. I mean, the Conti Cup final at Crystal Palace against Chelsea. That was the first time I'd been at the ground and watched them win a trophy.
Yeah.
Seeing them lifted, and it was just after the Euros as well. It was the tournament following on the Euros. I was lucky enough to go around doing the Euros, which was amazing. Yeah, the one of the funniest game, if I want to put it that way, would probably be going away to Spurs and watching us win 5-1, and at Leyton Orient's ground at Brisbane Road. That was just one of the funnest days out I've ever had as a fan. And then probably the one that's sort of not quite sad is probably the wrong word, but I was there for the Wolfsburg game when we lost 3-2 at Emirates Stadium, and it felt like such a significant moment in time. The sellout crowd, the fact that we were so close, but the whole occasion, I regret that we went out and we lost, but I know that we would have lost to Barcelona because I went to the final and they were amazing. But it felt like it was the right conclusion to the contest, and it felt that even though we lost that game, we sort of, from a greater picture in terms of what we managed to do as the fan base, in terms of having the game out, in terms of pushing Wolfsburg all the way to the end. Obviously, we didn't win the game, but I felt we did ourselves huge credit, and especially with all the injuries that happened that season. And that game I will look back on with a bit of a smile.
We wouldn't have lost to Barcelona; they would have battered us, and it would have been worse.
Yeah. Or would bat us. I mean, I went. It would have been worse. I went to the final. Wolfsburg went 2 goals up, and then in the first half, and then Barcelona said, "We're not having this," and then just steamrolled them in the second half. It was again one of the greatest ever Champions League finals I've ever watched, and was lucky enough to witness. Fantastic stuff.
Stadium you've been to?
This is a good one. This is good. I'd have a thought about this one. And it's gonna be a curveball. It's not gonna be maybe one you'd expect. But as a fan experience,
I'm so glad you said that, because I'm a Southampton girl. I live in Southampton, so bit of home turf there for me.
Brilliant. So I've been. One of the great things about this Spoiling Arsenal Women is it's got me out of my comfort zone. I've actually been able to go to away matches and go abroad to away matches, and I've had some great moments. I went to Juventus and Bayern Munich. I was in the rainy cage in Ajax, which was an experience. And try watching Arsenal play in a metal cage in a lightning storm with howling wind and pouring rain, and loving every second of it. But this season, Arsenal went to Southampton as part of the Conti Cup. And it was I went down to South Coast. No, I've been to St Mary's before during the Euros when England played Northern Ireland, and I went there and I loved the whole experience so much.
Yeah,
the support that Southampton brought to that game was just amazing for a championship side to bring that support, and it was and we won. It helped that we won, and we won in the last minute. It was right in front of us, but that experience in the I loved a lot going away from home. Obviously, the best stadiums are Emirates Stadium and Meadow Park. We should put that disclaimer in right now. But aside from them,
I remember watching that on the TV, and I thought
I probably loved the most.
Their fans were giving our fans a good run for the money. So it was, yes. Yeah.
Oh, they were in numbers, and of course they got the goal as well, and it was a very good goal, and I thought they deserved that.
That's what we
Thankfully, got it for. Amanda Illistead was there to nod in the winner.
Okay, I think we're coming towards the end of this show. You have mentioned you've got a few kind of side hustles going on. Do you want to kind of just talk to us about the kind of things you're doing with the women's football?
Major plug point now. Just plug yourself and get all your publicity out there.
So one of the great things. Yeah, I've got plugs coming out my ears. So one of the great things about this women's football is getting out of my comfort zone, and I've learned to embrace so many forms of medium. I'm now I do football writing, so I'm currently working on a project called Beyond the Pitch. We're doing a lot of writing around women's football, writing stories about whether it be celebrating great things in the game or dealing with some of the problems. We know what's happened recently, let's say with Reading Women, and the fact that their training centre's gone. There's been things with Wakefield, things with Thornaby, and we've got a thing coming out regarding, I think it's there's something we're doing with the supporters club, so keep an eye out for that. Lots of great stories and great content coming out, and I'm lucky enough to be able to write for them, and I'm loving it. So I'm doing that as well. I'm also a bit of a podcaster. You may have seen in the title. So I'm part of the Vic Akers Wonderland podcast. Me and 2 other friends, we do 2 pods every week. We do a pre-weekend and a post-match pod. And it's great fun. We preview the matches, we discuss some of the bits and bobs that happen during the week, and then we'll review at the end. We get guests on from rival teams. So a lot of fun doing that. And then, of course, my pet project is the Arsenal Women Archive. And this is something that sort of spontaneously happened over time. Before the Euros, Euro 20, the home Euros, I tried to find as many England clips as I could of goals from past tournaments. And you'd be amazed how difficult it is the further you go back in time as a lack of coverage. And I sort of transferred that onto the Arsenal side. I'd already had some sort of clips. I thought, well, how far back can I go? Can I get every WSL goal in? Turns out you can't. And it turns out some games you can't find. But what's worse is a lot of the old channels have recently disappeared. They've gone. There's old YouTube channels that used to the WSL used to cover a lot of the old highlights. They've all disappeared. A lot of our history is actually disappearing as we speak. A lot of old highlights and YouTube videos from old games or on other channels or on websites or Twitter or Facebook. They are disappearing, and luckily I've managed to retrieve a load of them. So this Arsenal Women Archive does a lot of on this day posts. and we'll cycle for every year and post highlights from the past. So old WSL games, old Conti Cup games, old FA Cup games, Champions League games. And as the years will go by, more content gets added as we move through the passage of time. And it just, for me, it provides a means of providing a link to our past, because a lot of people coming in, it was the same for me and maybe for others, will see some of these players on, presenting on TV, like your Karen Carneys, your Ania Luco, Alex Scott. Then you've got all the players now thinking, well, how do they get, what's their history? And it's about sort of trying to rescue and preserve that. And I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of other people who do a lot of work in their own fields, trying to preserve history. So that's something I set up a while back, and I just, post every now and then, and people share and comment and add their own stories to it as well, because we've all have our own anecdotes and stories. It's why we're doing this podcast, to share with it and add their own twist in it. So that's something I'm working at the moment, and you can find that on Twitter. I regularly retweet it. So if you do wish to jump on board and learn a bit about our illustrious past, and boy, is it illustrious, do give it a follow, and you can actually see us lift some trophies occasionally.
And actually, well, thank you. Yeah. And if we've got any way of sharing this, I think we're gonna have some of our own social media sooner. So we have to sort of retweet, reshare, retweet whichever platform we're using. I have got one bonus additional question. That's for both of you. So take it in turns. But whether you count it in games, like how many games before the end of the season, or by how many points, when we win the league this year. Because that's not how. Yes. I don't know where are we still this year or next year? I get confused because there's still games being played. And, next year by how many points, or you can either have by how many points or by how many games, will we win?
Final day goal difference, like Chelsea, Man City. It's going down to the wire. It is going to be neck and neck, and it'll be like Aguero. It will be Chelsea just a hit. Chelsea are going to nudge it, and then suddenly Alessio Russo, Lena Hurtig, turns up at the back stick, heads home a 96th minute winner, and suddenly the title's coming to Meadow Park. I hope she's okay. Sidebar. I just feel we've never been able to see the best of her. She's clearly, Claire and Jonas, who know far more about football than me, must have seen something about her. But it just feels like, she's just never had a good run, injury-free, and it's just going to be. We're not going to have that memory, and I just feel like we just looked out, or she's looked out, because it'd be interesting to see that, that sliding doors moment, whatever it is that's happened, or maybe it's a series of things that have happened. I hope she gets a moment. I hope she gets her moment. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I hope she gets a moment where she can be sort of, that was, whether it's winning us a Conti Cup again, or setting up a winner in the league. There's something where
I get the sense she might not ever play for us again. But in that same vein, maybe she scores the winner or the clinching goal that when Chelsea end up drawing against somebody, and that's the goal on game final day. There you go, on the final day, just as as Manu Zinsberger hits a screamer into the top corner. Is the same time that Lena Hurtig also hits a screamer, and almost simultaneously. So we're 1 minute we're kind of almost 2 points down, and the next minute we're 2 points up. Beautiful. There you are. It's written in the stars. Chantal, where are you going for? Points, goal difference, final game. Come on, I want 5 games clear. It's all done.
I think it is going to, we've seen this season how much other teams have stepped up and how different managers have come in and molded a team to make that progress. So I think it is going to go down to the final games, points, goal difference, unless something miraculous happens to a team. I think it's going to be a season to watch, with some big moves and big transfers across all these different teams.
Yeah, and that's already happened, isn't it? Everyone's kind of got a few of their own. Everyone's had a couple of marquee signings already.
would like Arsenal to have a sign-in be advertised out at the moment, but we always like to pretend there's nothing, and then we let it slip, and then it's like, oh no, never mind. The fans have found our new sign-in. We don't need
just need to keep an eye on the flight radar and the jet streams and the smoke trails, and it's all up there. It's all up there.
There's somebody on their way. Probably now, well, they're probably not now, because after the Windows situation, they're probably still in an airport somewhere. But I think final game though, going back to that is I think, and a part of it is just the format that we've got. It's such a small league. It's fine margins, and to act, joking aside, to kind of run away with this league now, it is almost impossible, because. It is fine margins. You basically, it's a draw. It's an away draw. It's a home draw and an away loss, and things swing on that. So and I think that there's a little less likelihood of the smaller teams. It is getting that way, and of course we all remember Birmingham. But when the smaller teams beat a bigger team, that's less than perhaps in the EPL, but it's getting more so.
I mean, if we just say there's been no, like recently, I think like Chelsea lost to Reading, Man City lost to Brighton, we lost to West Ham and Spurs. It does happen. You have to be, as much as we say it can easily, they don't happen. It does happen. If you're not on your A game, you have to be on your A game, because there are pitfalls and snares and traps everywhere. And if you kick off the ball, suddenly you've lost 4-3 away at Liverpool, and suddenly the title's out your hands. Just because the games seem easy on paper, and as Arsenal fans, we've been there.
Well, on that cheery
doesn't
note,
mean it always plays out.
But we are going to win the league, so we've established that, and we are still the greatest football team that ever was. That's been established. So we'll wrap it up there. Adam, thank you so much for your time. That's been a really interesting a journey down memory lane, and whilst we wait for the season. Next season to start. When does it become this season? What date can I start cooking this season? Okay.
September. When the Champions League qualifiers start in Meadow Park. That's when the season
really appreciate
begins.
Your time. And Chantel, super sidekick. Are you a block tenor? Is everyone block tenor now? Oh, you've gone with the home guy. Yeah, do you know what? I'm okay.
I'm not blocked. I think I'm blocked. We need a bit more in Emirates Stadium this season.
I was
behind the dugout.
But as soon as Jerry moved, I thought that's the place to be. But maybe there's going to be some atmosphere at Block 2 as well. It'll start to kind of envelope the stadium. So that's probably a good thing. What about you, Chantel? Are you a Block 10 or 2?
I'm in neither.
Whoa!
I think I'm opposite Adam. The other side, so I will be creating my own atmosphere there, and hopefully it will just slowly travel from the dugout to my block, and soon we'll have it going all the way around the stadium.
Good luck with that, Agent Chantel. Project Block, whatever it is.
I've done it before and I've got told off, because obviously we all have a chant that have swear words in it, and they're like, "Oh, you've been using bad language." I was like, "But it's the songs." So I've got a warning, which I'm not looking forward to. Well, apparently it was a fan complaint.
Is that from the stewards, or was that from the fans?
So
Stop it.
Oh my God.
See, this is what's wrong with the game. It's that if it was a men's game, you'd be swearing and no one bat an eyelid. So why should the women's game be any different?
People will take their kids, but like, you go to a football game, you've got to expect these sort of things. Like,
yes, it's a bit it's a bit blindly naive if you think that we're all going to be positive and friendly to each other, and of tea and muffins with the opposition fans, and a few handshakes and good show chaps. That's not how football works, and you got to get this delusion out of the mind that this is how football is, and if you don't like it, sorry, that's the game.
Wow. I mean, yeah,
exactly.
Okay, yeah. There's the preemptedness of a chant, but as the ball, you're sure the ball is just about to hit the net. It hits the post and cannons off. You don't go, oh, whoops. No one says exactly.
No, there are other verbiage I use in those situations, but I don't think it's suitable for sharing on.
I was thinking about swearing them, but yeah. Don't want Chantal.
No. It's been good so far. Let's end on a positive.
Swear words. Just go really British and just go, oh, golly gosh, and then that's it.
There you go. And we move on. Well, there we go. Thanks, everyone. Great show, Adam. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, and good night. Chantal,
thank you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, my not so sidekick.
And so this is me, Andrew Gambrell, signing off, and we are going to win the league. And hopefully Paul is going to seamlessly fade us out, and the theme tune will play. Let's see. Otherwise, just leave. Play the theme tune, Paul.
Oh dear, we are trapped on a live stream. Oh dear. Anything they're going to cut out. Maybe we should have like a vote thing.
First
like,
off.
if you want, save one of the 4 people on your screen.
The ball guy always goes first. It's set amount.
Vote now on the number below.
Just any of our viewers chuck a comment in. Whoever's name goes up first, they have to leave the group.
It's like the Hunger Games. Well, I've got a big button where I can personally leave.
I don't even know how you even leave.
Maybe we personally just leave.
Oh, I can find it. Yeah. No, I found it.
Just done.
Yeah, and then just leave a live stream of nobody on the screen. Maybe that's the way we do it.
Yeah,
that way.
I have to go.
Okay. Well, I shall go as well.
Let's all press that big red button at the top right, and I will see you all hopefully next week. But you never know who's next. Cheers all.
Cheers.
Bye.
Yeah.